Okay, these notes are over graphing quadratic inequalities. So I have two examples I'm going to be doing. My first example is I am going to be graphing x squared plus 4x is greater than or equal to 2. So my first step is I'm going to get everything over to one side. So I'm going to subtract 2 from each side. So I have x squared plus 4x minus 2 is greater than or equal to 0. And I'm going to rewrite it now as a function. And I'm going to replace the 0 with f of x. So this, I'm just writing over it f of x. So now I'm going to rewrite it as f of x. It's got the inequality opening away from it, so is less than or equal to x squared plus 4x minus 2. Okay, so that is what I'm going to be graphing. I'm going to be graphing x squared plus 4x minus 2. When I graph it, I'm going to be graphing it with a solid line because it's less than or equal to. If it was just the less than or greater than, I'd be graphing it with a dashed line. Now, I need to find some key points, so I can find my vertex by doing negative b over 2a. So b is 4, so negative 4 over 2 times a is 1, so negative 4 over 2, which is negative 2. So I know my axis of symmetry is x equals negative 2, and the x of my vertex is negative 2. I can go ahead and use my calculator. So I'm going to be plugging in x squared plus 4x minus 2 into the calculator. I'm going to get my table. When x is negative 2, my y is negative 6. So I have a vertex at negative 2, negative 6. So 3, 4, 5, 6. So there's my vertex on the graph. And then I have points. Let's see here. I'm going to make an x and a y. So when x is negative 2, I have a point at negative 6. That's the vertex. When x is negative 1, I have a point at negative 5. It's right there. And anything that happens on the right side of the vertex also happens on the left side, so it's mirroring. When x is 0, I have a point at negative 2, which is the y-intercept. Let's see here. When x is 1, I have a point at 3, so 1, 2, 3, and then 1, 2, 3, 1, 2. Okay. And then I have another point at 2, 10. All right, so there are my points, and I know I'm doing this a little fast, but I'm just using the calculator to help me get these points and plotting them on the graph. And I'm graphing it with a solid line because of the less than or equal to. Now I need to do shading. So this is the part that trips people up. For your shading, you go to your vertex, and if it's less than, you're going to shade the area that encompasses whatever is below the vertex. If it's greater than, then you go to your vertex, and you'll shade the area that encompasses what's above your vertex. So here, f of x is less than or equal to. So I'm going to go to my vertex, and less than is below. So actually, all of this area is encompassing what is below the vertex. So it's the outside of the U-shaped graph. And now I've done my shading. So less than, you go down. Now if your graph was opening downward, then it would be the area inside the U. Okay, had it been greater than, then I would have gone to my vertex and shaded above, so it would have been the U shape. And my last thing I'm asked for is for a vertex form. So I have A is 1, and I have my vertex as negative 2, negative 6. So I'm going to put it in that a times x minus h squared plus k. So I have f of x is less than or equal, a is 1, so I don't need to write it, times x minus a negative 2, which is plus 2 squared plus k, so plus negative 6 or just minus 6. So my vertex form is f of x is less than or equal to x plus 2 squared minus 6. My next example, I have negative x plus 4 squared minus 5 is greater than negative 6. So I need to get everything on one side. So I'm going to add 6 to each side. So I have negative x plus 4 squared plus 1. I can pull my vertex really quick and easy here. So it's always the opposite of what's happening in the parentheses. So it's going to be negative 4 and then whatever's hanging out on the outside, so positive 1. So my vertex is negative 4, 1, which means my axis of symmetry is x equals negative 4. 1, 2, 3, 4, 1. Okay, so there's my first point. To get standard form, I'm going to FOIL first. So I'm really going to do negative x plus 4 times x plus 4, and then plus 1. So this is negative. When I FOIL all this together, I'm not going to go through all the steps of FOILing that together, but it becomes x squared plus 8x plus 16, and then plus 1. I need to distribute my a now. So a is a negative 1, so it's going to go to all three of those. So I have negative x squared minus 8x minus 16, and then I have the plus 1. So it's negative x squared minus 8x minus 15. Okay, now we need to figure out our f of x. So here, when I added 6 to each side, my function was on the right side, so it's equal to 0 over here. I need somewhere bigger to write. I'm going to write it right here. So this was f of x. So I'm writing it as f of x. The inequality is away from it, so is less than negative x squared minus 8x minus 15. So I need to plot the rest of these points. So I'm going to put negative x squared minus 8x minus 15 in the calculator. I'm going to pull my table. So let's see here. So I know my vertex is negative 4, 1. When x is negative 3, I have 0. So, and same for the right side. When x is negative 2, I've got negative 3. And when x is negative 1, I've got negative 8. Okay, so that's about as many points as I can get. Now, when I go to graph this, I'm going to be graphing this with a dashed line. And the reason why is because f of x is just less than. There's no equal to. So I'm graphing it with a dashed line. And now I need to deal with my shading. So f of x is less than, which means I'm going to go to my vertex, and less than means I'm shading the area below it, which happens to be this area inside of the U-shaped graph. So it's just the inside area because it's less than, so I went to the vertex and shaded below, which is the inner part of the quadratic. And that is it for graphing quadratic inequalities.